Right then, Etsy is growing. Welcome back to my channel. I've recently looked at Etsy's recent Q2 earnings report. I've dug right into this to bring you some fascinating information. So please stay with me for the whole video, especially at the end, because there'll be a bit at the end that I'm sure most of you won't know. So look, Etsy is growing. Etsy's Q2, quarter two, gross merchandise sales this year versus last year are up 7.5%. And here is a really interesting statistic. 75% of all gross merchandise sales are coming from the United States. Okay, from the USA. This is so important, and a lot of you will know I try to get as many of you as possible to sell to the United States, because that's where the money is, that's where the sales are. 75%, that's a huge number, isn't it? So everywhere else on this planet that Etsy sells into is 25%. It's all about the US. You really need to think about that with your store strategy. So Etsy's growing, however, it's always a however. Let me dig into how this growth is happening, because I know lots of you are complaining and saying my sales are going down, I'm losing revenue. Yes, there are reasons for that. Let's dig into this so that you can gain some understanding here. So first things first, there are more sellers on Etsy now. So sellers have gone up by 5.9% from 5.706 million to 5.388 million. So that means 318,000 more sellers on the platform. Okay, competition is getting higher. Simple as that. We know that, right? We can all feel it, okay? Here's the bit that's with that affecting you, and that is there are less customers. 87.34 million down to 86.96 million. So they've lost about 371,000 customers. Okay, so 300,000 plus more sellers, 300,000 plus less customers. So that's a pinch, okay? People will be feeling that. But Etsy is making more money, and the sellers that are selling are making more money. How? So how is that the average order value, or the average spend per customer, has gone up 2.8% to $124. So the customer base isn't increasing, it's going down slightly, but every customer is getting more valuable. So they're spending more, and this is something that Etsy has, it's told, it's no secret, it's told everybody, we want customers to spend more. So this seems to be working. So the sellers that are making sales, the customers are spending more on them, but customers are going down and seller numbers are going up. So the feeling is right. It is more competitive. But if your standards are high enough and you're putting enough work into your store, then you will be part of this area that makes more money, because there are plenty of sellers out there that are doing well. Don't think for 1 minute, all the doom and gloom stories on Reddit and, forums. Remember that misery attracts misery. So these forums, Facebook, terrible place for it, right? It's going to be full of people saying, my sales are down, my store's dying, Etsy cut my visibility, all this stuff, right? There are loads of sellers making money. And I'm just saying this just to balance this out. It's not doom and gloom. Yes, there's always a problem. There's always a problem with sellers not selling. Always. There has been for as long as Etsy has been a marketplace. So Etsy's getting the customers to spend more. That's good news. So how else is Etsy making money and growing? Etsy ads. So Etsy ads, more sellers are using Etsy ads, and they are paying a higher cost per click to show those ads. And I'm sure those of you who are using Etsy ads will have seen this. Listen to this for a statistic. For the first 6 months of 2026, Etsy's Etsy ad revenue is up by $33.5 million. Just let that sink in, right? A lot of revenue coming in from Etsy ads. So you can see that, you know, the customer base isn't growing, the seller base is growing, but Etsy is getting the customers to spend more, and it is a fact, getting sellers to spend more on Etsy ads. Now I'm going to turn this over here. I've got a bit of paper which I've been reading from, and I'm going to read from it like this because there's so much more I want to tell you. This is so important. So now $1 in every $4 spent to acquire marketplace sales is coming from some kind of paid acquisition, some kind of advertising. So 25%, that's a lot, right? But it's giving Etsy revenue, and it's working. I presume it's working for those sellers that are advertising. And remember, not a lot of Etsy sellers don't realize when ads are working and when they're not working, because there's something called ROAS, return on advertising spend. You've got to know what your level is, your break-even level, your profit level, your negative level. You know, if you spend $1 on advertising and you get $3 back from Etsy ads, are you making money? Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe it needs to be $4 profit for every dollar spent. Now, here are some more really interesting statements that Etsy made in their earnings report. And I had to dig to find these, but they are absolutely fascinating. The first one, and this will be good news to a lot of you, Etsy has acknowledged that too much experimenting, so you know Etsy's changing stuff all the time. It drives me mad, you know, especially the listing photo orientation drives me insane. They have acknowledged it can damage customer engagement. We all know this, but Etsy, I'm telling you that Etsy knows, okay? So it's not the case that they're just trying all these experiments and changing stuff all the time, and they're not looking at the outcome or the fallout of this. They know that it can damage engagement. Well, Etsy, please slow down. Keep your photo slots the same. Stop changing the orientation. Drives everyone mad. Drives customers mad, right? They're saying it damages seller and customer engagement. Well, yeah, of course it does. At least they've acknowledged it. They know about it, right? Here's a massive one. This is huge. Etsy acknowledges that under and over enforcement of policy violation is causing seller and customer trust and engagement issues. Okay, that's massive. We all know that the policy violation enforcement is all over the place. Tens of thousands of stores are getting away with murder. People who genuinely should never be suspended or have listings suspended are having their stores and listings suspended. Over enforcement, under enforcement. Etsy has acknowledged it's causing issues with trust and engagement. Look, everything moves slowly with Etsy, but at least they're admitting these fundamental problems. It's something. Not saying anything is worse. They know. They've publicly put this in this report that they know. Now, this final part that I want to talk to you about is really, really interesting. So this is the statement from Etsy, and I'll just talk about it a little bit about what I think this means. They say improvements to feed freshness, including suppressing over 80% of previously viewed and engaged listings, drove gains in feed favoriting, listing views, and new searches, whilst gross merchandise sales remained neutral. Okay, this is good news. Okay, the word suppressing is terrifying. It sounds really scary. And of course, no algorithm is perfect. But what they're saying is they are increasing the amount of exposure of other listings related to what customers are searching for, so that the customer feed, what they're seeing on their phones, their desktops, their tablets, their laptops, it's fresher. there's more being shown. So customers are getting to see a higher variety of products. Now, this is the first time that they've publicly said this. From what they're saying, that's how I interpret it, and that sounds like a good thing. Because Etsy needs more products shown to more higher variety of customers so that more winners can be found, so that Etsy makes more money, and of course we as sellers make more money. So the takeaways from all of this that I've been talking about today are that Etsy is not in trouble. Okay, it's squeezing harder on the sellers. Okay, advertising revenue's going up, but they are pushing more money to the sellers that are selling. The simple fact is this will never change. Okay, Etsy is always going to show the stuff that sells. It's trying to show more stuff. That's good, but you've got to be good. Okay, Etsy's not dying. It's demanding more from you, the seller, demanding more from its platform to be better. It's slowly starting to learn this new phase of Etsy, how to make it better, how to make it better for customers, how to make it better for sellers. Look, I know there are loads of issues. I'm not saying that, but Etsy is changing. It looks like the moves it's doing in terms of bringing more revenue in. Etsy has to make money, and it makes money from us, right? So that's the bottom line. We have to make money from our customers. It's a two-sided marketplace. We are Etsy's customers. The customers that buy are our customers, so to speak, right? So take heart from this. Competition is higher. Customers have gone down a bit. Sellers have gone up a bit, but they're spending more. The customers are spending more, right? So the message is we have to be better. And I'm working at any one time with 100 students, and I'm trying to get all my students to be better, to build lean, efficient, money-making businesses that sell more, right? That's my job, to make you guys sell more and have prosperous Etsy businesses. So I hope you found all that interesting. Get into my comments and tell me what you thought about all those stats. There was a lot in there. Eye-opening, it really is. Etsy is doing well. Okay, we have to be better on our side to do well as well. If you want to work with me, as always, don't wait, don't guess. The book-in button is coming up to book in for my wonderful Etsy Academy private group learning to help you succeed and make more sales on Etsy. I look forward to catching you in the Academy. There's a seven-day free trial. Please join. And I'll catch you in the comments. Cheers.